All right, welcome back to That's a Thing Day. I'm Josh Fabian, joined by Scott Hollenbeck. This is episode 3. We've skipped episode 2. It's currently with our attorneys being reviewed.
It might have gotten a little too racy. We didn't want to scare our audience too much early on, so we thought we'd go to some easier content, a little more enjoyable.
Not get sued before we have
I
any
mean, it was.
issues.
I mean, I think some of it was absolutely hilarious, and we'll probably you'll get to see it at some point. But right now,
Absolutely. It will come out pending legal approval. In the meantime, however,
I'm trying to just so you know, you can look when it comes out. I'm advocating for the name Love and Wheel.
veto.
Yeah, it's dating, relationships.
It's everything you ever didn't want to know and then some.
That's right. That's right. That's
So-
right. That's right.
So, how are things in out by you? Because it's snowing here, or it's not.
I mean, I'm back to t-shirt weather here. I just ran the dogs, took them out with the little electric bike. It's not little, and beasted around some like school property and kind of through the woods and got mud all over myself. But I was fine. Like, yeah, it's great. I'd say it's probably like I don't know, 58 degrees or something.
It's so out here it's 37, and I was just outside maybe a minute before you logged in. So I'd let my dog out in the back, and I went out to pick up after her, and I'm leaning over to pick up, and you know that sensation when you realize you're not on all four wheels anymore?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good feeling. Not a good feeling at all. And like I'm leaning to pick up dog crap, and I'm on two wheels and I'm going further over, and I'm like, oh God, no.
Is this like
Oh,
an
God.
allegory or a metaphor for today's podcast or your life
could
in
be.
general?
It could, well,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
The answer is yes to both. But I didn't fall. I also didn't pick up all the dog crap because I just wasn't willing to take the chance. However, it does lead us into today's topic of just some of the crazy experiences that we have had that you could not get if you were able-bodied. I mean, these are in the theme of the
Yeah,
That's a Thing Day. These things happened.
That's right. They're unique to the wheelers' lived experience.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely over the years have created just a certain amount of enjoyment about and observation on the human condition. But yeah, there's some of them that well, let's get into it. Let's just do it.
Yeah. So I'm sure. So here's one that I'm sure we all have in common if you use a wheelchair. You go to a restaurant and the server comes up to the table and they start taking orders, and then they get to you and they ask the person next to you, what would he like?
Yeah.
And you just have to like, huh? Like, huh? Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I have this compelling urge to like blow the situation up at that point. Like, I'm not going to just simply correct you by saying, I can order for myself. That's way too easy. That's
Yeah,
way
that's not fun.
No. What I'm going to
It's
do
old, it's boring. It's like
I'm going to start going, I want pescadios. Mom said pescadios. And I'm going to make a scene that is going to embarrass the shit out of everybody that is there.
do you tip the server at the end? I mean, if they started off on the wrong foot and they just weren't sure.
Yeah,
And-
because I tend to give them the benefit of the doubt that ignorance is not like some sort of willful ignorance. They don't know any better. It's like the time I was at a McDonald's. I'll never forget. It's a great story. And I'm with a buddy of mine that I worked with. We order our food. And
I don't know that it's technically called food anymore, but keep going.
we ordered stuff. And the manager comes around the counter and he gives me, and I'm watching this happen, and it's already in slow motion. And in my head, I'm going, oh God, this is going to be one of those things. It's going to be one of those things. Hold it together. And he comes up to me and he hands me the food. Now, this must have been November. It must have been the end of November, because the circus, Ringling Brothers, was here in town. And he gives me the food and he goes, hey, I put a special Ringling Brothers CD in your food for you so you can watch, because this one they had like a promo on CDs that they would give you, like an AOL Minutes thing. I put it in there for you so you can watch it when you get home. And he hands it to me, and I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at my buddy who's able-bodied. My buddy's laughing. I mean, he's cry laughing, and I'm looking at this guy, and I don't want to be an ass, but at the time, I'm thinking like I had a pretty good job. I'm like, I'm probably making twice what you make right now. I'm probably, at least as educated with you as you are, if not more so. And you're giving me a Ringling Brothers? Like, what about me says, intellectual disability?
Right. And I think I do appreciate and over the years have more grace with people aren't sure what to say or
Hmm.
do. They've got this subconscious narrative or whatever, this bias, whatever you want to call it, that maybe they need to do that thing. And sometimes it's like you really need somebody like I love people that want to be helpful. But yeah, like the sort of the presumed thing, it's a hard one to digest and not kind of just be like, really? Can you just look at somebody's eyes and see if there's physical disability doesn't mean immediately intellectual disability. And by the way, intellectual disability might not mean any kind of physical disability,
Exactly.
right? Like,
Yeah. That's both ways. Yeah.
So yeah, and I will say to any listeners, like it's always fine to always ask, like, hey, can you read and see, and then you'll see if you get a response. But I mean, now sometimes I like it because I'll forget my glasses, and I don't know what I
As
want
you've
to order
gotten
anyway.
as you've gotten older, you do need more help.
Right, right. But my go-to one now has always been to lately, the last 2 decades or so, is make eye contact, let them know I'm tracking, and then step in on where would you like to sit, or be like, hey, I'd really rather not sit in the middle of the walkway where, the servers and everybody's coming with my
Yes.
chair
Yes.
sticking out. So I kind of head it off with some type of, I move my mouth and words come out, and there's maybe some sort of a preference that's being added, or some sort of quick, conversation on the way to the seating. Although sometimes that's a different person, but
Do you
yeah,
play
it
into
definitely
it?
happens less. I would say it happens a bit less is the way
Hmm.
I feel, with
I think
that.
you're right. I think that there's more awareness.
Yeah, yeah.
But do you
So
play into it because like my personality is that I have to play into it. I can't just let
yeah,
it go.
for sure, in certain situations, I absolutely have. So what's coming up for me here is I was going to the Los Angeles Marathon, and you got to go to the convention center. It's a lot of people. It's like 35,000 people running in it. So it's this convention center in LA, and we had to go get our race number, pick up your packet.
Hmm.
And so I'm there with two other guys that are wheelchair racers. One was a surfer, like he grew up in Korea, got polio, came over to Hawaii to get all these surgeries with the Shriners, which was kind of cool, and ended up like getting adopted by a family in Hawaii, ironically a Jewish family. So he's like a Buddhist, Jewish, polio, Korean, Hawaiian. So, and his English is kind of like the version of English in Hawaii that the locals use.
Hmm.
I don't remember the name of the term. So yeah, so he's just this amalgamation. Great guy, always laughing, always happy. Definitely got the whole it's all good Buddhist vibe going on. And so Jacob's his name. I had a bar mitzvah too, So
I have so many questions. I have so
yeah,
many
I know
questions.
it's
But
a
go on.
lot,
What was
but
the
let's
story?
let's unpack that later. So Jacob and I are there. We get our numbers, and the doors open up to the largest space that was currently in the building, which was actually they had all the people at the same time. So it was like 4,000 people were at this praise revival thing, and it was based on, I guess, like the power of prayer for healing and how you can put hands on people and heal them. And so the doors open, and there's three guys in wheelchairs, and the masses start coming out. Okay, like it was wild. It was definitely inside of like what is comfortable personal space with hands on. It was kind of the praying started before the would you mind if I pray for you? And so I'm looking over at them. They're getting prayed on. The Buddhist is getting prayed on. I'm kind of like, this is great. I do, and I will say this much. Like, I think whenever people collectively get together with an open heart and with a positive intention, like beautiful things can happen. They're more likely to happen. It's just like, hey, I'm calling in love here. I'm calling in peace. I'm calling in good things for this other human being. But it definitely crossed the line of you should always ask,
Yes.
right? And so we broke free of the first group only to be still surrounded by hundreds of more. So we're making a beeline for the elevator. It's clogged up. There's actually a couple people in this convention who were using wheelchairs and walkers and things. And then we're like, this is bad. Let's go to plan B, which was the escalator. So we had to get out of there. And then we were like pushing as fast as we could, which is pretty fast because it was all flat, and just like got out of there. And that one was definitely one of more of the not how you handle a situation like that.
I'm picturing like the very beginning of a Beatles movie. I think maybe it was A Hard Day's Night, where they recognize the Beatles are there, this group of,
Right.
and all of a sudden it's like, we gotta go. And they're just running, they're being chased by
Right.
this mob
They're
of
just
people.
running, getting chased. Literally, there are people running behind us. I'm not, none of, this is a true story. Fortunately, it didn't work,
No, I was gonna ask
which I was
you.
willing to go with it for a
Sure.
little bit.
Hey, listen, if it worked, you'll change my mind, okay?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, we had a really good laugh with that. But yeah, yeah, these types of scenarios are definitely things that come up. And then there's the times where you really wish somebody would kind of like be in your business, like when you have a flat tire on the side of the road. If you see someone in a wheelchair, be willing to help. Like there's good karma in it, you know?
Nothing wrong with saying, hey, do you need help?
Yeah, yeah,
Nothing wrong with, hey,
yeah,
do you need any help? I'm
yeah,
cool with that.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
a good one.
Somebody once told me though that like with me, that it's like I can never win. It's like I either don't ask you for help or I do ask you for help, and that's a fair criticism. It really is because But the thing, it's fair because I don't know what I want sometimes. Like
Sure.
like I
Yeah.
don't need you to hold a door open if I'm 100 yards behind you, and you're some random stranger and you're waiting for me. Like that makes me uncomfortable. That makes me feel like I have to go a lot faster to get through the door because you've stopped.
Oh, yeah, yeah, you got
Right
to
behind
sprint from
you,
the parking lot because you know it's going to be the awkward. Let me open the door,
right?
and then they're holding it across their body, and they
Yep,
want you to
and you
like
go
roll your
under them,
face
and you're
through your
trying to
armpit.
limbo. But if I'm right behind
And it's
you,
an automatic opening door at Walmart.
yeah,
Like you're like, what?
yeah. But if I'm right behind you and you would hold the door for anybody, you just reach back and hold the door for the next person so they can grab it. That's fine. But
Well, and I think that is the interesting thing with helping someone is finding a dignified way to do it. And
yeah.
a lot of times I don't even like the do you want some help? It's just like, how you doing over there? Or,
But
you
the
know,
praying thing, I want to go back to the praying thing because that is one I honestly could not count how many times
that's happened
somebody,
a dozen plus times to me.
at least, I remember being in a Walgreens once, and this woman just comes up to me, and it's like, I'm even buying like condoms for all I know, okay? Like, let's just make it the worst possible, like, most embarrassing thing. And she's like, I'm gonna pray for you.
You're getting venereal wart treatment, that
Yeah,
little
like,
the little
yeah,
acid
careful. We don't want
thing.
this going back to the lawyers, but
Yeah.
I'm like, huh? She's like, I'm gonna pray for you. Is that okay? And I looked at her and like I didn't miss a beat. And I'm like, I'd actually rather just have $50. Like, and the look on her face, like the color just completely drained from her
That's a
face.
good one, Josh. I like that one.
But I'm just like, it's happened so many
Did
times.
she negotiate with you? Can we make it 10?
She walked away a little upset, and I felt bad. On the other hand, I'm like, stop
Yeah.
doing this. Just stop doing this. I don't like if you wouldn't walk up to the next guy that's standing and tell him that you're gonna pray for him. Don't pray for me because not only like, well, first of all, I'm an atheist, so like it's like I don't need that. But second of all, it's like you're making this assumption that I'm like not okay. Like there's a little bit of that mixed in there that I take out of it, and I'm like, yeah, $50 would actually be a lot better. But
That's right. That's right. That's
but
right.
I
And
do.
listen, I don't want to. I want to say that it's always a decent thing to try to be of service and help anybody out. And there's not a wrong thing to say, which is why it's always the best with kids because they'll just kind of ask the obvious question or
Yes,
whatever, and
kids
you're
are the
like,
best about it. Yeah,
yeah, that's the that's probably the one that'll get me the most is when there's an overreaction around a parent that's like get out of the way or
yeah,
like
yeah.
like over the top because that's like sending this message to this young human being that they need to be on alert.
Yeah,
And like, honestly, sometimes it almost feels like they're like issuing like a, this could be dangerous. And you're like, well, not really, but
dangerous, contagious, something. If there's something wrong with us.
yeah.
Like I was at the gym the other day and I was getting on the elevator and there was a woman and her son who must have been like 2.
Yeah.
And, he just walked right over to me and he starts asking me questions. And the mom was like, that's not polite or whatever. She was trying to pull him away.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
But she was doing it in a kind way. I mean, she wasn't being like, stay away from him. But I was like, no, it's all right, it's all right. And the kid, is just asking questions. And I'm just like, yeah, I'll answer your questions. Like,
Right.
I've got no issue with that. It's
Yeah.
when you have that overreaction, though, of,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
get away from him. Like,
Right.
really?
Right. Right.
Like,
I mean, I feel like over the years, it's just gotten a lot easier to just kind of roll with it. To
yeah.
your point, if there's a way that can kind of be funny, that's always great. So this is, talking about this. So I was on a flight once. It was LA, or it was Atlanta to LA. Again, it was some race out there, and so I got my racing chair, right, and that always dries some eyes through
Sure. Yeah.
the airport. You're put, because it's easier to gate check it and works for everybody.
Yeah, hey, real fast, if you work for an airline and you happen to stumble across this, we always gate check our wheelchairs and the extra ones if we have one.
That's right.
Never
That's right.
check them in ahead of time.
Yeah. So I see this woman with like 3 kids, and like one of them's in like diapers, one of them's maybe 4, and the other one's like 2, like young kids, right? And I was like, ooh, you're going for it, traveling alone. And so we're on the same flight, and so they board first, and so we kind of are bumping into each other, and the kids were kind of interested, definitely interested in the racing chair. Then there hadn't been anything weird about it, other than like I wanted to help her, but I didn't want to offer because I didn't want to be like imposing. But like she had bags everywhere, more kids than hands. She needed some help. And so, or it appeared to me, I didn't say anything. But when we got off in LA, she got off last just because it's like, let me let the masses go.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're bumping into each other again. At this point, like the kids and I are kind of like, one of them on kind of making faces at him and that sort of thing. And so get out onto the jetway, and she's got the carry-on bags plus the kids. And one of the kids was like kind of pushing on the chair, and I'm like, it's fine with me. And then
Help me out. Jetway is very steep.
right. So we get to the top, and this is a big airport, and I don't remember which terminal we were, but like we're having to go, and then like I bump into him again at the elevator, and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm happy to throw that bag in my chair and put it back on my backpack, your backpack on my back if that's helpful. And she's like, eh. And then she pauses or whatever, and she's like, yeah, okay. I was like, I'll take it. And so we get into the elevator, and then she was, just kind of small. It turns out it's Sammy Hagar's wife. Yeah. And so
And wait, you said the youngest is how old?
this was like late 90s.
Okay.
So the youngest was like a baby, like little.
Well, he's
Diaper.
probably in his 40s,
Yeah, so
50s, yeah.
So we were joking about some stuff, but so when we get off the here's where it all ended. We get off the elevator. So I end up having one of her bags sitting in my racing chair, one of her kids sitting on top, and then another one on my lap. So I'm putting 2 kids, one in a wheelchair, one on my lap. Everybody's having a great time. It was a win-win, but like there was that moment where I wasn't sure how to even approach or, make it uncomfortable, like she couldn't do it or whatever. But it was a fun one. That was one of my more
Was
fun
Sammy
ones.
Hagar there?
No, actually, when we got out at baggage claim, he was.
Okay.
Yeah, I rolled out his kids.
Did he come over to you?
Yeah, we just said something real quick.
I'm just gonna go off on a sidetrack real fast. Like, I've had a few situations where there was a celebrity in the area. Not
Like, you mean like one of your famous wheelchair athlete friends?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And they go
So
out
crowd
of their,
control, big deal.
right. And they go out of their way to come over and like say hi to you. Like I remember that. Like I remember Michael Jordan doing it once when I was at the stadium. But the best one, well, not I, best it was Dad's Day weekend in Champaign, and this was 94, 93, somewhere around there. And we always had a back to school concert or a Dad's Day concert.
Okay.
And that year, it was a comedian, and it was Bill Cosby. Okay.
Okay.
And my
Yeah.
dad and I are sitting on the floor, and Cosby finishes up his thing, and I'm on the aisle, but kind of out a little bit. And so Cosby finishes up his routine, and he gets off this, and he's walking out of the
Okay.
auditorium to the ramp at the back of Assembly Hall, and he stops when he sees me to shake my hand. Okay. So I shake his hand because at the time, it's Bill Cosby, right?
Right, right,
Only 2 years later, realize I really like that handshake back.
this is along the lines of your $50 would be better.
Yeah.
So we were going, this was, shoot, let me see if I got this right. This would have been 96. Oh, who was a president in 96?
Clinton.
It's Clinton.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah, that's right. That's right. I met three of them over the years because we come the Paralympic team would go to the White House type of thing, and so yeah, it was Clinton. So you got to, I don't know. There's like 100 of us on this like buses, and you do the whole Secret Service checks, and
Right, right.
and then we get out and we're out on the lawn, and Clinton's making his way around, and he's a very verbose, talkative, engaging guy.
Yeah.
And so he gets to me, and I kind of pause, and he could tell like that he kind of looks like, because you just do the look like I'm about to mess with you or something weird's gonna happen. I did and I go, it's okay. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, I'm happy to I give you an autograph. It's fine. Yeah, no deal, right? Like, so I felt like I got that one in. But he was pretty smooth operator with all the the whole
Yeah.
group and gathering.
I've only met one. I've met one president. He wasn't president at the time. He currently is president.
Yeah, you should tell this story. This is
Well,
relevant.
I don't know that I want to get into it right now.
Right now, okay. All right.
We will get into it. We could do an
Yeah.
episode on crazy people we've gotten to meet because of it, because that's a long list too.
Right.
But I
Right.
want to get back to the crazy stories and the helping and along those lines, like there are like you said, there's certain situations where like you actually need help, okay? And oftentimes because of being involved in sports, we've sustained some I'd call them significant injuries.
Yeah, I've
From
had like
our career.
9 surgeries because of injuries. Yeah.
And there's a lot because those injuries are always upper body injuries, arms, shoulders, elbows.
That's not true. I managed to break my tibia and I broke my femur on the other legs.
Okay, let me
But
rephrase.
in general, the ones that hurt are the upper body ones.
Yes, and those become like significant. Like I'll give you an example. A few years back, I started noticing pain in both my elbows. So I went to an orthopedic surgeon. They did a bunch of tests, they ran MRIs, and it turns out that the ligaments and the tendons in both my elbows are torn. And the surgeon's like, listen, this needs surgery. And I'm like, well, what does that exactly entail? And he said, well, you'll be incapacitated for, it was like 3 weeks, your arm will be completely immobilized. Then it'll be partially immobilized. Then you'll start therapy after a month and a half. And he's going through this whole list of things. And by the time we get back to resume normal activities, we're like 8 months down the road.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't, it's not possible. How am I supposed to do that? And, and you start brainstorming and he's like, well, could you use maybe like an electric wheelchair to get around? I'm like, yeah, that's great. But like, I don't sleep in my wheelchair.
Yeah,
I don't go to the bathroom in my wheelchair. I don't bathe in my wheelchair. Like, there's some other things that, like, it won't even fit in bathroom doors to start. I mean, it's like there's all these things that come into play. But sometimes those injuries or those surgeries, those lead to situations where you need help. And you've got a great one. I mean, you win. Hands down, you win. So I'm going to let you tell your story.
Yeah. Well, I believe the story you're referring to is the 1993 Bud Run in Little Rock, Arkansas, where I managed to break both of my arms, radius and ulna, on both arms in a race.
How did that happen? So people know exactly how
Well,
it happened.
so I was coming off I was coming off a couple of really good years, University of Illinois, starting to win some pretty big races, had a great games in Barcelona, and was wrapping up undergrad and decided I'm going to go get a job, try this professional wheelchair racing thing. And it was kicking off. Like ESPN was covering us regularly at
Hmm.
probably 9 races a year. The sponsorship scene was starting to get a better, and the prize money wasn't bad. And then if you threw in some speaking and, some corporate
Motivational speaker.
endorsements or,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
kicking in, it was enough to feel like, well, maybe I should go for this. So that was the plan. I stayed and, got into grad school and we would get these calls from these smaller races, not your New York City Marathon, your Chicago, and so this was the Little Rock, Arkansas Bud Run, Budweiser, by the way. And so we get a call. They want to, have a wheelchair race, and we get there, and we would always meet with the race directors and drive the course and do kind of a safety assessment. And so the race goes off. I knew there were some issues because one of the things is we are usually the first ones through the course. So like if part of it is not closed down, that can be a problem, Josh. And there's no volunteers, and you're ripping through like an
And
intersection with a stop, a two-way stoplight or sign or stoplight, and we're going through red light. There's nobody there.
and
There
you're
is
not going slow.
police.
I mean, the speeds at which you're going, you can't
Oh
just
yeah,
stop.
you basically 20, 20, 18, 20 miles an hour on the flats,
Hmm.
and coming in hard on turns, and there was a lead vehicle, but they were technically from a safety perspective a little too far out, honestly. We weren't even sure sometimes, and so this was starting to concern me. So it was mostly University of Illinois guys, so we kind of kept it together like a pack of about five, and then we got to like mile 4, and I was like, all right, I try to win this thing. I mean, come on. And so I started like doing some surges, and then it's down to 2. It was Tony Iniguez and I, and Tony was in great shape. Like he was in killer shape that year as well. And so I get up to the state capitol building complex, they got and we come around the backside of the state capitol, and where we had gone the day before with the race director, there's like a barricade up, and then there's only one way to go, and I'm like making this move on Tony, and I dropped him a little bit, so I just was like, boom, I guess I'm going this way, and I pop it into this turn, and it's off camber, or it's got a camber on it, right, like a grade, but then it's turning to the right, which those are the scariest because your centrifugal force is pulling you out. And I'm doing like 25 miles an hour at this point. I came around this little knoll, and there's these 2 vans parked. It's only a one-way road anyway. It's not wide. And so I was like, shit. And I had gone what they say where I took the best line. So Tony had come out about wider. It's a great line if there's not a vehicle parked in your way. I would have swung more and, out a little bit more on the apex of the turn. Anyway, yeah, so I basically stuck my arms through this full-size van again. I don't know what it is with these full-size
You're in
vans.
vans, yeah.
I put my hands out and I just snapped them both. They broke when I hit the radiator, and luckily we had helmets on. We just started using them pretty regular, and I'm stuck there, and it was like this moment where I don't know, it was like a cartoon, like where you hit like a brick wall and you're like frozen, and then I just sort of fell off of it and had split the helmet. I'm like, crap, really hard hit. And luckily Marty had us like a lot of lifting, was carrying easily 10 more pounds of muscle in my neck and back, and I was young. But I'm laying there and I'm like, no, 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 no. And we had just been out to the LA Marathon, and James Briggs and I had broken away. And it was the first time like a college athlete was going to win a major national event. And so we broke away from like at mile 1, and we had 17 miles we were out there, and then James gets a flat tire, and then I got double flats at 19 miles and still ended up third, like the guys got me. So I had a very legitimate shot, top three seed at Boston that year. That would have been a deal changer.
So what month was this in
So
Arkansas?
this was March, and
Okay. And so
so
Boston's
early
the end of
March
March.
was LA. 2 weeks later, we did the Bud Run, and then 2 weeks after that was going to be the Boston Marathon. In hindsight, we probably shouldn't have been at this race, but
So
whatever.
you
It's,
broke.
Mark, that's what Marty always said. Like in hindsight, we probably should have skipped that one. And so when you're tipped over in a racing chair, you're strapped in. So the way you would get up is like do a handstand,
Yeah.
pop up, kind of like you guys do in basketball, but a little trickier because it's longer frame and everything. And so I go to do the handstand because at first I was like,
Did you know you were broken? Did you know your arms were broken?
no. So I kind of did this. I did this little kind of safety assessment, and I was like, okay, well, let's see if I broke my neck. I was like, nothing, nothing. I'm like, woo! And I just real quickly went to do, and then I knew my arms were broken because you could still see it to this day. Like my bone sticks out this
Little
way,
bit.
and so the whole bone was out here at that point.
Through the skin?
No,
Oh.
didn't break the skin.
Okay. All right.
And so I had no health insurance because I hadn't started yet. So I was like, take me to the university hospital. That'll be cheaper. And that like a whole story there. And we're not going to get into that. Hilarious. But they put me in traction. We didn't want to do surgery there.
Mhm.
Marty had already made phone calls, was going to get us in at the University of Illinois orthopedic surgeon.
You're referring to Marty Morris, who is
Marty Morse's head coach.
Right.
Yeah, legend in the sport. Great.
Yes,
Awesome.
great guy.
Yeah, and so we're in there. We traveled. Our physical therapist for the team would travel with us. Tim Milliken was there, and they got me in traction, and they're hanging. The guys are coming in and out. And they're all joking and doing the thing, and then I see the staff kind of whispering and talking, and then they're like, "Well, what we think we're gonna do is, we're not gonna keep you here. We're gonna put you in a long-term care facility." And so they can get you back to Illinois. And I'm like, whoa. Like I got these 5-pound, 10-pound sandbags that are holding my
Right.
hands with this like glove thing. And I'm like, hold on, what are we talking about? I like there was a conversation going on with Marty.
That you weren't included in.
Yeah. I was like, hold on, I couldn't do anything with my arms. Like, bring it on over here. And I'm like, look, yeah, I'm headed back with the team. No, they were gonna put me in a nursing home. That was the plan.
Have you ever had to spend time in a nursing home?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in nursing homes.
Okay, we'll go back.
Friends
We'll do that
and
some other time. 'Cause I have as well.
Relatives and yeah, not what I was going for.
Right.
But they're doing the same thing. Like they were actually thinking of the things your doctor wasn't, which is how's he going to take a shower? How's he going to go to the bathroom? How's he going to feed himself? How's he going to dress? And they're like, well, clearly nursing home is where this guy needs to go.
Mhm.
And it may very well have been. So I signed out with my mouth. They got me into the 15-passenger van that we were
You
in.
in casts at this point?
What?
Did they cast you at this point?
Yeah, but they were like temporary castings,
Okay.
but all the way up to my armpits
Yeah.
on both sides. And so then the guys thought this was the greatest thing ever.
God, I wish there were cell phones back then.
They would, if I wanted to eat, I had to bark 2 barks. The running joke was who was going to help me. You figure out who your friends are because somebody was going to have to help me cath myself because I couldn't. I was like, this.
Yeah.
Like, I got to pee. You're going to really figure out who your friends are.
Who's my real friend?
Yeah. Real friends. So I ended up going home and it was hilarious. My mom wanted to come. My twin brother did take a leave of absence from med school and was super helpful. And the guys were great. They would kind of like set me up in a chair with some food and I'd sit there at this table and I could like answer a phone and like.
You were living in your house. What was the street?
Yeah, Hessel Boulevard.
Hessel. Yeah, so it was right.
Yeah,
It was Hessel and
So we start getting better, or I start getting a bit better. I've still got the double casts on, but like I was like willing to go outside, and I had this dog Gunner. He was like this blue heeler inside. Gunner needs to be walked. So I was like, what could go wrong? So I decided to take him on a walk because he'd pull me. He just didn't know right or left or stop very well.
Now we're at this point when you did this, because I remember this, and
So I was.
were your casts were cut down. Were your casts cut down?
No, I was still in fulls. I might have been in one at this moment, but I definitely had one full. So I could like lean down and use the cast on my tire to kind of brake and turn. And I could kind of push with that elbow a little bit.
Right.
And it was enough because you can kind of turn the chair like
You can hip it.
this, like
Yeah,
spinning your hips.
yeah.
Shouldn't have been out there, Josh. And so I'm cruising along on this totally flat surface, and the dog kind of gives a hard pull, and I hit like the smallest crack, and I'm out. And I managed to kind of do this turn in the air cat, like not hit the arms, but I landed in these freshly trimmed bushes. 'Cause I had a lot of like the whole along the side of it was this like privet. Stuck myself. I'm bleeding. I'm laying there, and I'm like, wow, this is great. And
All my
one
dreams are
guy's
coming true.
well, this undergrad guy, he's probably like 18 or 19 younger. He was walking toward me, saw the whole thing. And then he was just like, kind of froze, wasn't sure what to do, did the math. Like, what am I gonna lift this guy?
Turn
Like,
around and walk
hit
away.
his ass? And so he just kind of buggers off. Another guy came along, this bigger guy, and he was like, do you need some help? I'm like, do I ever, my friend? Yeah, do I ever? My dog's licking his face. He's like lifted me up, put me in, and he's like, you got it? I was like, I think so. But he would have walked me home, I think.
So
But
back then, so one of the interesting things that people who don't use a chair probably don't realize is that we've experimented with different sized wheels in the back, different sized front wheels, casters. Now back then, all the rage was using rollerblade casters.
micros,
Yes,
super
yes,
cool. They were like this. They were like an
yeah,
inch
because they
big.
could turn on a dime, and it was great. But the flip side to that was, and actually, Family Guy did a great episode on this once. Where
Yeah,
they're doing
I saw it.
yeah, where like the smallest thing, a bottle cap. No, you hit it with your caster, your chair stops, and then you get a lesson in the whole objects in motion, stay in motion thing because
Hmm.
your inertia continues to carry your chair stops, but your body doesn't.
That's right. That's
And so
right.
those rollerblades, I don't think anybody really uses them for their everyday chairs anymore. They use them in sports still, but
Unless you live and work in like a box store
yes,
that is swept and clean, but then you could literally hit like part of a leftover.
crumb.
You get comfortable. You're like, I got this. I'm good. I worked at Home Depot for a while at one point, and I loved it, man. Like I could rip around the store, but I would literally hit like a partially cut 1 inch piece of a zip tie, and if
Yep,
you weren't
you're
paying
done.
attention,
Yeah, you're done.
you're going down.
Yeah,
And I was usually going way too fast. So
and it was what's interesting is you got very good at recognizing the surface you're on, and you can kind of like you were talking about how you could hip your chair side to side. You could kind of lift the front end up a little.
oh
With
yeah, it floated.
well,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we got good at that because back then, like I remember we would hitch rides off of scooters around
yeah.
campus. You know,
Cars.
yeah, cars. So up to 20 miles an hour, I was fairly comfortable holding on.
Mhm.
Anything above that is like it's a little bit fast, um, but yeah. All right, so go back to your story. So you're in your how long were you in the casts for? Because they did cut them down, but you still couldn't really use your hands, which is the most important
Yeah,
part.
I was in the full casts, both of them for 2 weeks. So what happened was when we got back, and this happened on a Saturday, I went to see the orthopedic surgeon on a Monday. The bones had already started healing. I mean, we were doing like our capillary density for those of us that were marathoning and stuff. It was off the chart.
Hmm.
Again, Marty's training was epic. And so I was already healing, so they ended up doing surgery. And then I would go in every couple weeks. So I was in double casts for 3 weeks, and then they cut the right one down because it was healing. It was like the x-rays looked great, and I was just in a half cast. The other one I had another week or two, I don't remember, but then we'd go into the training room, and I have no idea, Josh, how I got up onto the arm ergometer that we would like spin on and sit on. But somehow, I don't know, somebody helped me. I don't remember now, but Marty had
It's
me back in
an arm
working out,
crank that you see at the
and
gym.
he would like take these bandages and like strap my hands to the thing because like I had the cast was in the way, and then I was like doing full blown like intense workouts
Yep.
on
I
that
remember
thing.
seeing you there with your arms taped. I remember seeing Gunner pulling you
Yeah,
around and just thinking, this is bad. Like I hadn't at that point experienced a serious injury, like
yeah,
that was incapacitated. But I just remember that was a very, very real wake up call. Like, oh my God, if something like that happens, to
yeah.
your point, you're gonna find out who your friends are.
That's right.
And
That's right.
then what like do you just like
Well,
put me down at that point? Like what
no,
Bridge and I would talk about like if that something like that happens really bad, just
yeah.
put me down.
It's fine. And you know, like the time goes fast. I've had two shoulder surgeries, which are longer. I mean, that's like
Mhm.
6, 8 month recovery situation. And you use the power chair. And I got stuck in the power chair, and a neighbor, this random guy helped me. I ended up getting on this sidewalk, and it was weird. There was a telephone pole like right in what would be almost the center of the sidewalk. So they'd done this little round thing about it, and it got
Mhm.
narrower, and I didn't really realize it. And I got there and I freeze. I mean, it was only gonna like I was only falling like 6 inches, but these things are like 400
Oh,
pounds,
yeah.
and it would have complete. And I started to kind of fall, so I just froze, and I had my arm in the one arm's strapped up,
Right.
do not move it. The other one I was like holding onto this wire on the telephone pole until somebody came along, and this guy was like, "You good?" I'm like,
Not so much.
not so much. And I got him there, and I'm like, and I had to use a joystick, and I sucked at it. Again, it's just like I didn't know what I was kind
Yeah.
of doing.
It's
And yeah, so that was hilarious. That guy so saved my bacon. He was awesome. And I was worried about him because I go, look, I need you to kind of spot me, but if this goes sideways, like it's gonna kind of fall on you. And he's like, I got it. And I could tell. Like he was like an angel, literally showed up, got me out of that one. I had like cold sweat when I got home. My wife was like, "You all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." I was like, it's embarrassing and pathetic, but evidently, yeah, my spatial observations are affected. I didn't realize like the thing was getting narrower.
and it doesn't have to be, those are major injuries. But even
Yeah,
a minor one can really like I remember once in college I tore the ligaments on my thumb,
that's
and
no joke.
I was in a brace.
Yeah,
It was my left hand, and so I'm right-handed, so it wasn't. I could still do a lot of the normal stuff, but I noticed how much it got in the way. But just this last year, during football season, something happened on. It was on a kickoff, and the ball hit my hand really awkwardly, and I thought I jammed my finger, but it turned out I actually tore the ligament or the tendon, whatever it is, right up here, and I had what's
yeah.
called hammer finger, where it just like you can see it, it just sort of like dangles. And I had to
Ooh.
spend 8 weeks in a splint, and I couldn't. Okay, so now it's my right hand, right? This little tiny splint. I mean, literally, the splint goes from like here. Whoops, I shouldn't do that. From here to here. Okay, it stopped me from being able to do like you talk about self cathing. Like I couldn't grab a catheter. I couldn't figure out how to grab it. Like I struggled with that so much. Like just the craziest little things. It's like all because like I wanted to chop my finger off.
Yeah.
I actually
I tell
asked
you,
the
I always
surgeon.
felt like ET. I couldn't give it a lot of love because ET's fingers didn't really move right. They weren't functional fingers. Like I don't know how you're going to do interspace travel. I mean, even if you have a splint on one of our fingers, you can't hardly pick up a straw.
No, that's it. It's game
Yeah,
over. I'm like this
yeah,
little thing
yeah. So
is
I
the
was
end
like,
of me.
ET, no, not
No,
after the wheelchair. Not
no,
not seeing it.
no. It's just it's little, but
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's
Those
funny
are
because those are just embarrassing.
right.
Like when if
Then my favorite part is everybody who's ever like broken their arm or has shoulder surgery or that sort of thing. They're like, they'll see you in the wheelchair with your little sling and and they'll be like, "Yeah, I I had shoulder surgery. That was tough." And I'm kind of laughing. I'm like, "You have no
yeah, like the
idea
guy that
what
comes
is
up to you
going
and
on
says,
here,
yeah, and the
right?"
guy that says, I
Like,
broke my foot once and had to use a wheelchair. Like,
like
yeah,
you walked out of the hospital.
exactly.
Multiple people had to pick me up like a sack of potatoes and have, on and on. That was just to get out of the hospital. But yeah. Yeah, you just gotta hunker down on those deals, Josh. You just like basically shave all your body hair and
I do that
get ready to
anyhow.
not. I didn't like with the shoulder, and even with the broken arms. I didn't get to have a shower for like 2 weeks. I had to put like the whole garbage bag thing on.
Which
Like
doesn't work.
my roommates lifted me in and bathed me, and I was like, "Let's just do this once every 2 weeks." This
I just
is
want to thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart for never during that period calling me and asking me for help
yeah,
because I would have been the guy that said, we're not
yeah.
that close.
You'd have done it if it was necessary. You'd have done it
I'd have shown up, but I'm glad I did.
with.
I, and I would have probably been in therapy
I
afterwards.
want to tell a story where you would have, Josh. And I understand you might have come up with a convenient excuse, and I wouldn't fault you. I wouldn't fault you. Yeah, that was good times. And
Yeah.
my mom, my mom was the best. Like when I first got hurt, my mom did all the things that, you wouldn't want your mom to have to do, especially as a teenage boy. But like she was like, I'll come, I'll do it, I don't care. And I'm like, I think we
No,
got
the things
it.
I need help with, I don't want my mom being the one to help me with at this age. Like, nah, I'll just die. It's okay. You know?
Yeah, you're just like, check, please.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, these are the things. These are the things that make life interesting and fun.
yeah, yeah. But it does give you an opportunity to play into it at times. You can have some fun with these things. I mean, we have. I would argue that some of the best, or the most memorable laughs I've had came as a result of some ridiculous situation caused by a disability, my injury, and you play into it. Like it's just,
Yeah, you gotta have fun with it.
yeah,
You really do. A little tenacity helps. Like the whole positive attitude adage, which, like, yeah, to me, it's just like, well, let's just see how it works out.
let's play
Like,
this out.
especially when I don't know, and the fear starts up, like, oh, this is, and then you're like going off into this whole like fear attraction
That's a
thing.
bad place to go. There's
Mine's
no,
like, this is gonna be hilarious. I don't know exactly how, but it's going to be hilarious. When I got mauled by the dog 2.5 years ago, we thought we'd help this lost pit bull. That did not work out, and he turned on me after like trying to break up a dog fight. And man, that dog got me 3 times. He bit me on the left arm. I was certain he had broken it, and then once on the hand, and then twice over here. I had 13 holes in me. And he went for the face, and I did like that, and he went bam, 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 and I was like, whoa! And then he hit, then he goes for the face again, and I block like this, and he nails me, and thank goodness. Then he just laid down and like looked at me like, hey, sorry about that, like he just had snapped, and
mhm.
but I was sitting there. And I'm like, not again, because I was thinking I was gonna have the double cast deal again.
And he'd knocked
And
you
then
out
I
of
was like,
you'd been knocked out of your chair by this too, right?
what's that?
The dog had knocked you out of your chair.
No, I actually didn't go down.
Okay,
So
okay,
close. I fell backwards when he lunged and hit like this wall.
okay.
Oh, yeah, I just broke my charger in the wall, demonstrating. I hope you people appreciated that. Anyway, yeah, I almost went down and I didn't. But if he would have jumped again, it was game over. I was trying to have that positive attitude, but like it was so intense that I threw up
Yeah, yeah.
because it was intense. Like the fight was intense with the dogs being bit multiple times, intense. And so I'm throwing up. I've got my arms up. My wife comes out and she's like, "What? What have you
Why are
done
you playing
now?"
with dogs?
Yeah. And then I was like, I'm done throwing up. And I was just like, ice buckets, please. They filled up the 5 gallon buckets. And I just started icing as we went towards the hospital. But I was trying to like, it's all gonna be fine. This is gonna be interesting. But yeah, it was like one of the couple times now in life I'm like, are you gonna be able to laugh with this one, you idiot?
One day, one day,
Yeah.
yeah, one
The
day.
funny part was, it's not even funny. I go to the Emory Hospital. The last time I had been there was 10 years before when I got mauled by a mastiff.
Dogs in vans and you.
I don't know what it is. I love dogs. I love them all. But yeah, that one was really a bad deal. We'll save that for another one. But the funny part is I get in there. I hadn't been in the hospital. I hadn't broken anything in forever. And they're like, hey, says here you were here 10 years ago and 2 weeks with the dog thing. And I was like, yeah, that was me. I'm back. But yeah, it was pretty fun.
Well,
Yeah.
I want to wrap this up because don't want to take up too much time from people, but um, there's so many of these stories as you're telling your story. I don't know what's happening with you right now, but I'm all these other stories are coming to mind of things that have happened, and they're just at the time they're not necessarily hilarious. Sometimes they are. I think as I've gotten older, I
Sure.
enjoy them more. Like I take like an Ali G style approach to it. Like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm diving headfirst, all in. Like I'm gonna tear the tags off my mattress and my pillow and all that, and like go turn myself into the police type of thing. Like I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go like here, I committed a crime. Like what is happening with
Arrest
who
me
are you?
right now.
Yeah, like so I can enjoy it. Everybody else is very uncomfortable and awkward, but on the inside. I'm like, oh my god, this is hysterical. But yeah, there are a lot of stories we can. I'm sure we'll share more as we go on. But
It's
that
great.
that Arkansas
Well,
crash,
that's a thing, you guys.
it
These
happens.
are all things. So,
All right. Well,
signing out.
we will catch you guys next time. Appreciate you tuning in. Please like and subscribe and share
Yeah.
it. Share it with people if you find
Or
us entertaining.
complain
Or
to the
complain.
FCC.
All right. Thanks, everybody.